Hello, everybody, and happy Friday to all of our great viewers out there. Zach Starr here on the Zach Starr Show, and we are wrapping up week 2 today. I just want to say all of our viewers out there that have been watching us, whether it's YouTube, TikTok too, which has been awesome, Twitter, as well as some of the other social media platforms that our videos have been shared on, as well as where they're posted, like Twitch. Thank you so much for watching. It has been just an awesome experience so far. When I started this show, I started it with a couple of ideas in mind. Number one was to sit here and talk to you guys about what I'm working on in my personal life, talk about my company, talk about the current state of business in the United States, as well as the entire global economy. But on top of that, I've had a lot of amazing conversations with a lot of awesome people. And when I first started the show, my first thought was, who can I have on to share these experiences? I've had hundreds, if not thousands of hours of phenomenal conversations surrounding business, but also surrounding life. This show is not just a business show. That is exactly what I didn't want when it came to the Zach Starr Show. I wanted it to just be who I am as a person, which is every facet of life. I try my best, and I've talked about this and have ranted about it, frankly, on the show for a while, about having your eggs dispersed in different baskets, having different topics that you can talk about, have the ability to work hard, but also play hard, have the ability to socialize with people, have the ability to work in different sectors, different types of environments. And that's really important to me personally. So I make it my mission. When I come on and I have access to this platform, I make it really important for us to be able to enjoy that and be able to have this environment to sit in. And it's really been great. We're 2 weeks in. This is show number 5. Of course, we took Labor Day off on Monday, but we're wrapping up week 2 this week. And it's been everything that I've ever wanted. It's been really cool. It's been a phenomenal experience. And again, the whole point of this show is not just about me. And every guest that we have on, I tell them all the same exact thing. It's called the Zach Starr Show. I'm the host of it, but this is your time. It is a relaxed environment. Again, I always wear a suit. That's just who I am. I enjoy being able to sit here and be able to play around with some different sorts of apparel. But for anyone who comes on, it's just a nice, relaxed environment to smile, to laugh, to take a break from what you've got going on in your life. There's a lot of awesome people with a lot of awesome things happening in their life. And this is the opportunity, the hour that we spent together on this show, broadcasting on this platform. That is the time to do it. And so I just want to recap the last show. We had Gavin Toney on, a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time, who was born with a limb deficiency and has lived his entire life with it. And he is one of the strongest people I know. We talked a little bit about his background on the technology, the advancements in the industry to help folks like himself to be able to keep pushing through and make life easier for them. Him and I had a chance to travel multiple times together, walking over 30 miles in a 3-day span. He's awesome. That was just a really fun show. It was a really inspiring show. And he and me both agree that our goal is to be able to inspire and to be able to actually project our voices so people can hear it. I'm willing to sit here and be open. I'm willing to sit here and talk about my wins, but talk about my losses. That's something that I'm willing to do as a sacrifice so that you out there can actually sit back and see that life is not always sunshine and rainbows. It's always about balance. It's finding that realistic approach to what life is. That's what business is like. And it's what a lot of different real life factors are about. So now let's shift to today's show, September 9th, 2022. Tonight, we are going to be interviewing a really exciting guest, someone that I have known for a little bit over a year. And that whole saying, by the way, we'll talk about it when he comes on, about time. There's people that you may have known for 10, 15 years in your life, but honestly, it's the people that you've met recently that are looking out for your best interest. And it really is something true, especially with this person, as well as a couple other people that I've gotten to know in the last year. He is someone that his interest is economics, finance. He is someone that came to this country from Puerto Rico for better opportunity, better chances. At 21 years old, got his real estate license and is working very hard right now with his fraternity at Westchester in philanthropy, working on a bunch of different really cool foundations and fundraisers. Without further ado, I do want to introduce to the Zach Starr Show audience, Mr. Jake Perez. Jake, it is awesome to have you on today. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you've known about the show for a few weeks as I was getting started with it prior to the announcement. I'll be honest with you, you were probably definitely top 3 when I thought of my show as someone that I wanted to have on. Just again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, somebody that can just sit back, relax, just have a nice conversation, talk about our experiences, talk about life. And you know my company almost better than anybody. You were there for me during a really tough time during my company. For those who may not know, in the last year, a lot of really hard regulatory processes rolled out in the United States, causing my company to make a significant pivot. And I'll be honest, I was really close to shutting the shop down. But I thought about people like yourself, Jake, and I thought about people that are there for me and have really been supportive. And we may not realize, for people that are supportive and caring, we may do it because we're nice people. We don't always realize how much of an impact that has on other people. I'm just going to start the show by saying that without Jake, it's hard to see that my company would still be standing today, because that was a really tough period. And I remember we were sitting at that breakfast place in downtown Westchester when we were talking about kind of when all hell hit the fan. And I mean, it's days like that where we've had a lot of really good conversations, a lot of deep chats, talking about things that 21-year-olds usually don't talk about. So overall, everybody, that's who Jake Perez is. That's who he is as a person. But there's no one better to explain him than himself. So Jake, I'm going to give you the floor and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate you and your friendship, so it means a lot. You pretty much hit the nail, and I do want to apologize if my dog makes a lot of noise. He's back there. He wants to play. But I moved from Puerto Rico about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, in order to look for better opportunities, keep growing in life. I didn't want to stay home and do the same thing that the people around me were doing. I saw poverty, I saw a couple different things, and I said, no, that's not the life I want. I want to keep doing better and eventually influence change in other people, see how I can help them. So that's why I'm heavily involved in philanthropy. I'm trying to do more business in order to eventually hit that goal. And I don't know, just see how many people I can help. So that will be me. I'm Jake.
Certainly. And we'll definitely take an opportunity to dive into it a little more. I do want to just tie it back, talk a little more about, I did explain a little bit about our last year's friends. We have another friend, Ryan, that we were also very close with, who's coming on next week. So stay tuned to the schedule for that. That's going to be an interesting episode as well. Yes, and so tying it back to today, Jake, talking about how we met, I actually met Jake pretty much the way that a lot of teenagers and 20-year-olds meet. I DM'd him on Instagram. I came across his profile. I'm good friends with a few members of his fraternity, and I saw that Jake was a member of it. And I saw your Instagram, a lot about real estate, a lot about business, and it just seemed like a helpful guy. I DM'd you. I said, hey, I know some of these people from your fraternity. I'd love to get a chance to meet. And we met at the Starbucks in the library at Westchester. And I remember you were dressed up nice, and I came in, I had like sweats on. I'm like, I promise I'm usually not dressed like this. And I think it was a few weeks before the Angel Venture Fair. I knew you were going to try to get down there, but it was like just as we had met, I was going to that because I talked to you about my company situation. I explained the concept to you. We spoke about potentially connecting me with some investors, talking about as well what you were working on and real estate. And then Ryan happened to be there at the same time, and he ended up sitting down with us, and we had a good conversation. So that's how we met last year. We both are the same major at Westchester, same program. And like yourself, I mean, it's hard to find at this age, but to have people that are really trying to find the best for themselves, it's something that really is admirable about many people, and it's something that's unique for yourself that a lot of people around this area specifically aren't going to be able to relate to. And I believe too, on a side note, I believe there's a reason that people become driven. There's a reason, like for me, I was once pretty overweight and pretty unhappy with my life. So that really inspired me and motivated me to drive and change my way of life. For you, and you touched on it in your introduction, you're from Puerto Rico. You're from a place where poverty is very prevalent. You're from a place where you saw a lot of things going on there, and it made you think to yourself, I have to find a better opportunity for myself. It's very gutsy for those who, I assume most people know where Puerto Rico is, but it's far. It's over a 3-hour flight, right? It's more than that. And and it's even further. It's southeast of Florida. It's just shy of the British Virgin Islands and the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's an island in the Caribbean. And of course, it's gutsy. A lot of people I know that move from Cuba and other places to get out of Cuba, and others, they go to Miami, they go to Florida. A lot of people move around the South Coast, but you move to Westchester, where we have very cold winters. And I'm sure that was a heck of an experience last year. But just touch a little more. What were your expectations when you lived in Puerto Rico and you thought to yourself, I want to go to the United States and I want to pick a better life? what were your expectations and what was your reality as you came to the States?
So that's a pretty long answer for a short question. I first moved to the United States when I was 16, maybe 15, 16 with my little brother. We were staying at a relative's house after a really bad hurricane. I forget the name. I think it was Maria. And spending time out here and seeing what it was like. I was specifically in California, seeing what it was like. I decided I want to be back out here. I don't want to leave again. Because when you compare and contrast the life in Puerto Rico to the one in the United States, Puerto Rico is amazing. I love it. But in order to be the person I wanted to be, I realized at that age, this is where I want to be. At that point, I was very involved with music. So that had to do with it. I was like, hey, if I really want to do music, I want to do it in English. So the United States is where I've got to go. Um, long story short, I moved back to Puerto Rico 8 months later. And ever since then, I was like, I need to come up with a plan to leave Puerto Rico and move back to the United States. Because I was back in that environment and I was like, yes, there's plenty of good people, there's plenty of good things to do in Puerto Rico, but to the level I wanted to grow, the space just wasn't there. So I said, okay, I'll save money, finish high school, figure out how I'll move back to the United States. So a couple years passed by, and I think I was 19 or 20, and the opportunity came up, and I moved. I moved back to the United States to Pennsylvania, out here in Westchester. The plan was New York. It didn't work out, but I said, hey, I'll start in real estate out here and eventually see where that takes me. So the goal is still New York, but we'll see what happens. So that's basically how I ended up out here.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Continue.
no, yeah, that's basically how I ended up out here. A year later, I met you and Ryan over at Starbucks, and then ever since, I haven't looked back. It's been a great time spending time with you guys. Learned a lot, um, and I've made a lot of great memories too. I'm not gonna lie to you. So it's just been a great time.
Most definitely, yeah. We'll touch a little more on that in a little bit. I did want to kind of focus in a little bit about your experience in real estate, and more specifically, I know you did have an opportunity just a couple months, a little more than that, but you had an opportunity to work in a real estate office, doing the training, getting licensed. I'm not sure if there's a world record for it, but you're probably one of the youngest people in the United States that got their real estate license. It's no easy task. So, what made you want to do it at first? What was the process like to get in, and how did it feel when you were able to get your license? And where is that taking you now? What is your course looking like now, having that experience, and how can you use that moving forward?
So getting the license, what took me to get the license was I was back in Puerto Rico and I decided I want to do real estate because it's a flexible career. It allows me to help people because it's one of my big passions. And I was like, okay, I work with people, I'm helping them. I'm also protecting and watching after their rights. So that was a big thing. And then uh, Puerto Rico, the economy for real estate isn't as good as the United States. So I was like, I need to do it in the United States. That's where I want to be either way. So I said, okay, I'll move out there. Got out here, started getting my real estate license. It's a pretty hard test. So you do have to study a lot. I had to get two certificates for each course, the state course and then the national course. And then from there, I took two more tests, passed them, all of them, like first try. So that was great. And after that, it was just a matter of getting experience in order to grow in the field. There's a lot that people don't see that go behind it. People think it's very glamorous. You just show up, um, customers and clients come to you, and you have $1 million paycheck. That's actually not how it happens. I've had people tell me, "So are you rolling in dough yet?" I'm like, "No." I have to wake up every day, make sure I hit my numbers, calling. Let's say I want to make one sale, I need to call 100 people that I know, or I might have to exponentially multiply those numbers if it's for someone I don't know. It just depends. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. It helped me realize that if I really wanted to achieve what I want to do, I do have to put the work, time, and effort into it, and also have faith in myself. Because if you don't have those things, you're just gonna give up, and because you're not getting anywhere. It's a simple recipe or formula for success. It's put in the effort, time, and faith. If you don't have those three things, you're not gonna get anywhere. I'm pretty sure you've realized that with your company and everything that you've gone through. Like, you've had difficult times, you had to have faith. There's times where you could not work, but if you don't put in the work, it's not going to happen. And there's times where you got to wait in order to see the results come to fruition, because it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. So that's my thought, at least on it. So that's been my experience with real estate so far. It's very it's a very difficult field. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way about yours too.
Most definitely, yes. And one thing my friends who watch the show, they make fun of me for, because I've said a few times that the world is not all sunshine and rainbows. And it's so cliche, and I try to avoid saying the cliche things on here, but it's true. And it, as basic as this analogy sounds, it's like, look at the sky. Look how it was on Tuesday. It was a torrential downpour. I know that because I was driving back from New York, and the trucks in front of me were making it impossible to drive. The reality is that a lot of things take hard work. It takes discipline. It takes consistency. And then you really touched on the best part of it. It takes patience. And I mean, there's this TikTok that's been out there for a while that if you could find it, it's something along the lines of, you wake up, you go to the gym, you work out, you look in the mirror. What are you going to see? And it's like, nothing. Yeah. You go back tomorrow, you work out, you look in the mirror, nothing. But the key to it is, if you truly believe the path you're taking is going to lead you to where you need to be, given time, and specifically in the gym, it's probably 2 weeks to a month before you start noticing a difference, 2 months before other people notice a difference, and 3 and 4 months, it's truly a difference maker. For someone that's lost weight in his life and has done some bodybuilding, I can verify that. You go to the gym one day, you look in the mirror, you're not going to see anything. You sit down at a desk, you write down a business idea, and you make a few connections that day. It's not going to mean anything. For me, I've been working on Next for 2+ years, and there's some stuff to show for it. There is a product, which I have down here, by the way. Someday I'll maybe show it off. But we have a product, and we have a lot of things there, but there's not much to glamour about on social media, which, I mean, that's all people care about. They're like, oh, I don't see you're posting on social media. You must not be happy. You must be losing or this or that. And that's not true at all. If you believe the path you are taking on a day-to-day basis is going to pay off, you just got to keep your head down and keep working. Yeah. Keep grinding your butt off. Keep working to do that. It's all about that consistency. So again, it's the hard work and the consistency, but it's that patience. It's that time and time again. And you know that well. You hit on that really well. So now I want to transition a little bit and ask you this question as far as the real estate. What's next for you in the real estate world? Is this something, I know you mentioned before that it is on hold a little bit as you work towards getting your degree? You can certainly touch on that a little bit. What do you see as your next step, if you're going to continue or not? That's perfectly okay as far as the real estate industry. And what have you learned from it? What is your biggest takeaway from your experience?
So real estate wise, the biggest thing I've learned is just the lessons. Well, that's basically the same thing, but the lessons I've taken away from it. It's knowing to wake up every day in order to hustle or work hard for whatever you want. No one's going to give it to you on a silver platter. And then what I told you, time, you need to understand that, well, not understand, but develop that sense of delayed gratification, knowing that it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. I think it took me about 3 months, maybe a bit longer, before I had someone come out and ask me, hey, how do I do this real estate thing? How do I get my license? And after that, it took a while longer for someone to ask me, hey, can you help me find or buy a home or a mobile home or whatever they were looking at whatever they were looking for at that point. So delayed gratification, knowing it's going to take a while, putting in the work, and then having faith. I woke up every day, and then some people would be like, no, you're not a real estate agent. It's not going to happen for you. You're in college. Just take your time, finish that, and then do it. Like, even loved ones would tell me, hey, this isn't going to work out. And then after they saw I believed in myself, and then people started asking for my help, and they started seeing I was getting some traction in some business. They were like, "Oh, well, can you provide me with some help or some knowledge or tools?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm here for." Those same people and relatives that were like, "No, it's not going to work out for you." So it's those are the biggest three things I take in: work or effort, faith, and then time/delayed gratification. Now, the reason I decided to take a moment and step back from real estate, it's because I'm still in college. I'm very involved in campus, as you mentioned earlier, with the whole philanthropy aspect. And if you're juggling real estate, a job, a bachelor's degree, philanthropy, and then your hobby or passion, it it's very hard to balance all of those, which are just personal interest, and add on top of it, let's say, a relationship, like family members or a partner. So you start sacrificing there. And I realized, hey, I'm doing all of these things, and yeah, I'm making great strides, but I've also learned from very wealthy people who say, hey, I wish I would have slowed down and spent more time with my family. And that was one of my big goals for this whole year, was just spending more time with my little brother. So I've been trying to take every Sunday just to do something, him and I, because that's a relationship I want to obviously continue working on and growing. So that's really the main reason I took a step back from real estate. It's just to focus on these other areas, and then once I'm done in college, I can go back into it. You know, I'm pretty sure you can relate with everything you do.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing too, first of all, I respect the honesty and the openness. That takes a lot to discuss, especially when you went through the efforts to get that the license and all that, to acknowledge, hey, I know it's I just bit I call it bit off a little more than you can chew, and I do that all the time. Where it's like, all right, well, if I had 27 hours in a day, maybe I could do it, but it's only 24, and you got to sleep at some point. So no, I respect that honesty. That's what this show is about, is a comfortable environment. There's probably people in your position who are juggling a job, and they're paying tuition and they're paying rent and they have other expenses. They have relationships, family or partner, and they're also trying to work on a passion, get a bachelor's degree, maybe work somewhere else in advanced education. And they're asking themselves, what do I drop? And at some point, some things I mean, you only have so much time in a day. And for me, I work on that all the time. I have so many ideas and so many ventures and so many things I'm working on, my health included. And there's days, if I'm being honest too, I mean, there's days where I haven't been able to be in the gym. Today's the first time I was in the gym for a week because I just haven't had a chance to. I was sick last week, so I was not trying to mess with my sleep schedule too much. But when you have things like, for me, my company to run, or classes to go to, especially when it's the first week, you have to make sure that you prioritize those things. So that's a really good, it's good intel. And especially my goal for this show, and I've probably said 30 goals today so far, but another thing on top of that is just helping people understand they're not alone. That's all I want. Nobody has the same situation as another person, but by no means does that mean that they're not in a similar position in specific areas. And for someone who might be in a situation like yourself, where you might be working so you can pay your tuition, all those bills like that, and at the same time, you're juggling a few other things, especially when you're very involved on campus, which I know we'll touch on in just a few minutes. It is something that's really a question you have to ask yourself. And one thing that I work on too is personal development. And that's like an inadvertent thing that I kind of picked up. And I don't make money off of it. I don't charge people for my advice. I'm a friend. That's what we do as friends. And inadvertently, I created a method, a plan for myself just to keep myself in check, make sure I'm time management correctly. And when I do those things, I notice where my priorities are. I notice where I'm lacking, and I know what's realistic and what's not. It's very easy to sit there at night. Everybody's like so amped up. They have a rush of adrenaline. They're like, all right, I'm going to do this month, this month, this month. Month flies by, you burn yourself out. And I've been there so many times. And I still, to this day, make similar mistakes that I will get burned out. I got really burned out this summer, and I needed a few weeks to. I mean, I was still working on the top things that you need to work on, like if you're running a company or you're paying bills, or for me, I was coaching baseball. Those still had to be complete, but those accessories, those excess things, spending time in the gym, things like that, when you get burned out, sometimes those start to fade, and you don't want to neglect anything. Most importantly, you don't want to neglect relationships or family or friendships. And that's one thing above all. It's always family above all. I have
Yeah.
always had that mentality. As much as I work, as much as I like to do things with friends and things like that, I've chosen family. I've never picked something. I mean, I have, but majority of the time, I try to pick family over that. The earlier in your life you can realize that, the better. And for a lot of my college friends out there who are listening, and this is nothing against anybody, but it's very easy to get sucked into the college life. It's very easy to to get caught up in what's happening. Which, I mean, it's fun. There's a lot of stuff that's enjoyable. We both know that pretty well, and there's a lot of awesome people to meet. Sometimes the college life, it does tend to suck you in a little bit, and sometimes we lose track of who we are. We lose track of our family. We forget to call, and we forget to be in contact. Maintain your relationships with your family. You do that, you'll be set for life. As long as you're a good person and you have a strong support group, make sure you talk to them, because you don't want to regret it. And I'll tell you a secret, and that's for everybody watching as well. And Jake, we've gotten a taste of that because we've worked in the real world. There will be a day, if not now, where you are going to have to work. Whether you're an entrepreneur and you're self-employed, or you're someone who works a 9 to 5 or a similar work structure, you're going to be working for a very long time in your life. And for most people, that, even for me, I have a pretty flexible schedule despite my commitments. There are so many gaps in our schedules now where we can talk to family, we can build relationships, we can establish friendships, we can be good people, go out and volunteer. Especially if your age is 18 to 25, 26, now is the time, because you will be locked down to a career one day, if not already. You will be locked down to a job where you're working to work with other people, collaborate to do great things, which is awesome. I do have a rant I will do one day. There's a toxic culture. There's a toxic memo inside the entrepreneurial culture that all 9 to 5s are toxic, or that if you're working for someone else's dreams, it doesn't mean you're not also being a part of great things. I'll cover that in another episode. But the bottom line is, despite the fact that I feel very strongly about the self-employed and the entrepreneurs, there are workers out there who want to work, who want to help others achieve their dreams and do great things. So to tie that back to our point, many people, the majority of people, will be locked into jobs like that in their future. And it's going to be, once you get married and you have kids and all those things, which sound like they're 10, 15 years down the road, you're not going to maintain the same relationships with siblings or parents or cousins. So while you're in this time, do that. And you, Jake, I'm sure you agree 100% on that. These are the times to do it. So all the things in your future for your career are going to be there. It's all about building these relationships with family and friends. If you do that and you become a reliable friend and a loving family member, you can't lose in life, because you'll be happy no matter what. Money is whatever. You spend $100 today, you go work 10 hours this weekend, you got $100 back. You go and get the experience of talking to your family and enjoying it. It's priceless. And that, I'm so strong about that. This is the first episode I get a chance to talk about this, Jake, because you brought it up, which is awesome. And I'm thrilled to have this conversation. That's true. As much as I believe, like the whole Elon Musk working 100 hours a week, sleeping in the same office as where you work during the day, I'm all for that for some people. I know it's not for everyone. But this message that I'm saying now is the first message I have that is universal across every single human being that watches this show. Prioritize your friends and family. Know who's out there for your best interest and knows who's not. I've known Jake, mirrored on my camera. I've known Jake for less than a year. I've known him for 10 months, if that. And I feel more comfortable with him and more confidence with him talking about business, talking through issues, talking through problems, just blowing off steam and having a fun time than people that I've known for 5, 10, 15 years. And Jake, I mean, I'm sure you've had people in your life that you've known for a long time that you don't trust or haven't had those relationships with, versus people that you might know recently who share that experience. For you, we'll touch on it in a little bit, but you're part of a fraternity. In a fraternity, it's what you make of it, and you build a brotherhood, and there's people in it that you never thought you'd connect with at first, and all of a sudden you have people that you can count on. A couple of weeks ago, I got locked in my parking garage at school. As dumb as it sounds, he's the first guy I called. And despite the fact that they finally showed up later and got me out, he was right there for me. And that, honestly, I mean, I'm very appreciative for it. And Jake, I tried to pay you. I want to gift you something at some point. Maybe I'll throw it into your Christmas gift. But the bottom line is, when you have friends and you respect your relationships and you follow up with them and you do what you're going to say, it reaps such benefits above any career advice I will ever give, above any startup, entrepreneurial, investment, thesis, analysis, fancy words, anything along those lines. Above all else, prioritize your family and friends, prioritize your relationships. Just be a good person, be humble, be kind, just be a good person. And I'll wrap up with this before, Jake, I let you get some more feedback on that. And then we'll dive into some of the more fun things you do on campus. My last message is simple. People are not going to remember the things that you buy or the things that you wear. I mean, you wear a Louis Vuitton belt or whatever to school. Who cares? The only thing people are going to remember in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now is how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's 100% true. I wake up every day and think about what my legacy will be someday. I mean, yeah, I could wear the most expensive shoes if I really wanted to. Like if I work hard enough. I mean, I don't have the money, but if I work hard enough, I could, and I could go and be flashy for everyone. But it's not who I am. It's not what I care about. Because I've realized what's really important is, like you said, relationships. You know, the shoes you can buy them again some other time, but they're just that, some shoes, an expensive shirt, expensive car. It just gives you temporary happiness. Now, relationships, they will be there for you no matter what. It's good times, bad times, they'll support you, which is one of the things my fraternity believes in, which is strong arms, and I believe in it very strongly too. It's basically, hey, you fall down, we'll be there for you. You're having a good time, we'll be there for you no matter what. That's what relationships are all about, really. Before I keep going on a circle, I'll just end it there. But one of the things I've realized this past year, and what you and I have seen, is that really, well, at least I've noticed, you are the person you surround yourself. You're the type of person that you surround yourself with. So, joining different organizations, also my fraternity, there's a lot of people I didn't think I connect with, just because we lead very different lifestyles, and some of them have different priorities. I do connect with them, like great relationships, but their priorities are different. Let's say I've met people who just want to party, and now they're no longer in college. So I think the younger you are and the faster you realize, hey, I'm 19, 20, 21, however old you are, you can be 40. If you realize, hey, these are my top 3 priorities, whether it's business, a hobby, family, whatever it is, these are the really big 3 things that matter. And if you ingrain that in your mind and you start working towards it, you're not going to be aimlessly like wandering through life like an arrow. So I learned that specifically from a kid I met, and his parents were paying for college, so he wasn't paying a dime. His parents couldn't afford college either, so they were putting a lot of effort into it. He started getting lost in the college party scene, started chasing around girls, stopped studying, stopped putting in the effort. Eventually, his GPA was so low, he got kicked out of college. And I sat down with him yesterday and talked with him, and I was like, dude, 20 years from now, you're going to look back and realize my priorities were out of order, and what did I do wrong? I wish I could like go back and do things differently. I just had that conversation with another person, but from their perspective, they were like, 21 years ago, I wish I would have done things differently. My life would be in a whole different place. So the earlier you realize what your priorities are, whether it's relationships, money, if you want it, or your hobbies, like I said, make sure you're working towards them. So that's all I want to say about that. But talking more about campus and what I'm involved in, which we'll talk about in a second, is philanthropy. And as you know, I'm trying to get you more involved, try to get you to join the dark side. You're slowly getting there. But yeah.
Yeah, every 1 weekend at a time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Just give it some time. Yeah, so for those that don't know, I am a Sigma Chi with Westchester University. It's a Greek organization. We are, our whole goal is developing the leaders of the future. John Wayne was one of our members. He said, men join fraternities, leaders of men join Sigma Chi. I'm pretty sure I've told you the line like 20 times. It's one of my favorite just quotes that I've heard so far about people that have joined Sigma Chi. And I've really realized this past week, as you know, something happened in campus, and we were trying to raise some money in order to create an impact and influence some change. So that's what I've been working on right now. I think, hey, as John Huntsman Sr. said, who was also Sigma Chi, and he worked very in depth with cancer, and he built the Huntsman Cancer Institute. He said, "Give often, give early." The the more we do now, the more it'll impact the future. So that's mainly why I'm involved right now with philanthropy, and hopefully we will have you out there soon, helping us out too. I know you're interested in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I do hope we can talk about next in a moment because I haven't heard a lot about it lately. How does that sound?
It sounds good. Yeah, I want to touch. So you are. I know last year you were the head of philanthropy. Is that still your? That's still your position within the organization?
Yeah, I was gonna. So last semester, I was philanthropy of the fraternity. They decided to put me forward because they knew how I cared about it, and also the whole cause about fighting cancer. So they basically nominated me. I didn't know I was nominated, and because I wasn't gonna run for anything, and then they voted for me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll take the position. And then this semester, I said I wasn't gonna run for anything, and then same thing happened. I was like, all right, I'll do it again, I guess. My only thing was I don't want to be president or vice president. That's not my thing. I know there's ways to cause uh, influence, like an impact, without being a president or a vice president. So that's what I'm working in right now. We're raising money for the Huntsman Cancer Institute, and recently we were raising money for RAIN, which is I don't know if I told you, but it's the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. They run the National Sexual Assault Hotline, if I'm not wrong, is what it's called. I think it's 1-800-656 something. And then they also run the Department of Defense, DoD Safe Helpline, and they also do a lot of other stuff. So they're both great organizations. That's mainly both of them, the ones I'm heavily involved with right now, just because of what's going on. So yeah.
And it affects day-to-day life. And listen, this is not something that is going to be a common conversation on the show just because of how often it's brought up in terms of both organizations or both causes that you're working towards. So I definitely want to elaborate on it. I definitely want to give my thoughts on it for the audience out there. I'm sure it's something that it's one of those things that people get really uncomfortable talking about. Sexual assault and cancer are two things that, for multitude of reasons, people are just uncomfortable talking about. Cancer because, well, I mean, a lot of people pass. I had a good friend of mine pass away in January from a 5-year battle with cancer. So certainly it's something that's touched me personally. And my grandfather, before I was born, died from cancer. Everybody knows multiple people from all ages that have passed away from cancer and have had to fight through the process and have pretty much went through that process with the person who was fighting. And in many cases, they win their battle, but still too many cases where people are losing their battle with cancer. And with sexual assault, people just don't. They think if they avoid the issue, it's going to fix it, or I'm not going to talk about it, so it's going to go away. Well, yeah, I mean, we had an incident on campus last week at Westchester, and now it's going to be in the rush. Everyone's going to talk about it, and then it's going to disappear again. It's a sad reality. But people like yourself, Jake, that dedicate their time in philanthropy and care about it. I put my faith, personally at least, in people like yourself to keep this ship moving, because philanthropy is it's awesome because you get to do things such as organize events for charities, organize awarenesses, be able to get out there, sell popcorn in certain instances, to be able to get awareness raised and be able to donate some money. And so it's a great thing for you, but for the rest of us, a lot of people put their head down and they just keep walking. And it's disappointing and it's sad. And I'm not going to dig the human race today, but we know a lot of what occurs. And frankly, for me, I've run a sports talk show for a few years as well. And so on that show, my co-host and I have talked a lot about racial justice and talked a lot about different issues like that and equality. And that goes the same here. A lot of people, especially men, are afraid to speak out on these issues and represent and stand up for people that they put their faith in, because frankly, it is one of those scenarios where they don't want to be called out or name called, or, oh, you're a feminist or this or that. I mean, I think it's frankly BS, if I'm being 100% honest with you. I think at the end of the day, we all should stand together. It shouldn't be men versus women. It shouldn't be anything like that. It should be all of us together against the issues, especially with cancer. That's a chemical issue. No one's causing cancer in someone else. No one's saying, boom, you have cancer now. Well, sexual assault is different. It's something that is very much and should be preventable. And frankly, the more awareness we have, the more education we have, the more understanding we have of each other, the much better we are, as well as good practice and environment. Jake, I've spoken to you numerous times about a lot of the safety measures that you have with your fraternity in terms of overdose prevention and overall safety. And when you told me last week, I'm going to go a little more information on it. You mentioned that you guys carry Narcan in your fraternity, and I pretty much was so enthusiastic. I'm like, thank you, because we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about, like, if you're a parent, you don't want to think about the idea that your kid might be using an opioid. Or for you, your fraternity, you don't want to think that you'd have someone there that would use it. For someone that works in addiction, I know how severe it can be. And the best thing that we can do sometimes is have these options available. So I think you remember when you said that, you mentioned that to me, then we were at lunch, and I'm like, thank you, because people don't talk about it enough. And I want to tie that back to the sexual assault. It's so important to have that awareness. It's so important that people understand this stuff, because if they don't, they're going to ignore it. They keep their head down. It probably dates back a little bit to insecurities, and I will happily sit here and talk about it for days. People are worried what other people think. I'm like, I really don't care what people think. I care about doing the right thing, because it ties back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to do the right thing, be a good person, and good things will happen for you. I mean, that's how it works. Because the reason that it's not necessarily because of, I mean, you can believe in karma, it's something I do to an extent believe in, or believe in some power that rewards you for good behavior. But in reality, it's if you are good to people and nice to them, when things go wrong, other people tend to be able to have an influence on that. And if you're a good person, it'll come back for you. Now, tying it back to the cancer perspective, like I mentioned, a lot of people, unfortunately, way too many are affected by this. And what annoys me the most about our medical industry, and as much of a capitalist as I am, as much as I am very, very private companies and organizations like that, again, it frustrates me the cost of bills for these people that have to go through. Not only do you have to watch your kid suffer from cancer, but you got to cough up hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to treat them. And that to me is so frustrating and is so infuriating. And for me, I've been very involved. Our school system, where I went to elementary school and middle school, we always had donations. We always had charity drive and toy drives for the Ronald McDonald House, which is where kids and their families get to be, and they have everything paid for them. They have televisions, they have different types of environments, because the last thing that you should have to worry about, and St. Jude's Hospital is great as well. Anyone hasn't looked into that, it's phenomenal. Parents shouldn't have to get a single bill for things like that. And as much as I'm a business person, I'm like, yeah, I mean, these cancer treatments are amazing, and they can be very capital intensive. There's no reason that the obligation should be on them. There's a nice supportive ecosystem of human beings out there. It has been proven, but the more people we get, the better. And for me, I have two notes on that. For me, I mean, I sure as heck, my goal is to be rich and successful. And I do refer to actually money, but at the same time, I feel that it's really important to give back. And even if I have a lot of money, I mean, sure, if you have a lot of money, you have no reason why you should feel guilty spending. If you want to get yourself a nice car or anything like that, I mean, that's fine. And I'm not going to judge you. But at the end of the day, especially if you're more fortunate, you should definitely give back. And you should definitely, for me, I'd love to start a foundation one day focusing on some of the things that have personally affected me and affected friends of mine that I know. And more specifically, one thing that I've learned a lot too, money itself doesn't change people. Money exposes you. Are you a good person? Having more money is going to make you a better person, or the same good person, because you're able to give back, you're able to donate, you're able to spend your time, get people that are willing to do these things. If you're a bad person, if you're someone who is not treating people with the appropriate respect, when you don't have a lot of money and you're like that, well, you make a lot of money, you're going to be the same way. You're not going to magically become generous because you have money. It's about habits. It's about continuously being able to go ahead and work with these things. So on that note, for people who aren't making a lot of money quite yet, for certain people that are working towards certain goals and aspirations, it's super important to be able to give back even when you don't have a lot. Now, I always have an expression: you can't pour from an empty cup or an empty mug. is the official expression. I agree with that. But if you have some, even if you're not the most fortunate, I mean, your time is there. So what? You can't donate a $5,000 check to St. Jude. You can't do what you can to donate and help set up Ronald McDonald houses. Your time costs nothing. And frankly, for me, I mean, volunteering is honestly the backbone of our society. As much as I love capitalism, as much as I've talked about all that, the backbone volunteer is a whole different department. It's a whole different game. And that's really important. It's really crucial. And it's something that I'm so passionate about because I mean, that's what it is. When you are affected, when you see someone dying from cancer, or if you know a victim of sexual assault and you get to hear their experiences, if you don't firsthand experience these things, which I would never wish any of that on anybody. But the reality is we know people that have experienced these things. It really changes your life. And for yourself, Jake, you've already been motivated. You've been doing this. If someone experiences it for the first time and they haven't been paying attention, and now they're like, oh, I should probably start looking into things like this. For people who are willing to volunteer their time, like yourself, and yeah, I know you won't gloat yourself, but I will happily gloat you for my audience. I think it is crucial to have people like yourself, and it really makes a difference. It inspires someone like me who's working on battling addiction, helping people that are currently smoking. But to volunteer your time, to work, to be able to do those things, it's inspiring. It's awesome, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. I'm glad to hear your fraternity is taking some of those steps, and it really is something that is very. It's good. My goal is to show the good of the human race on this show. You flip on the news, you're going to see a lot of negative things about certain political parties or people. Or I don't care about any of that. I care about this. I care about how you're going to treat me, and I care about how you're treating people around me. Because if you think of me as someone who has high clout, I'll sound like a millennial for a minute. You might give me respect, but if you spit on the waiter or something and you don't treat them with respect, I wouldn't have the most respect for you, because I know if you're in that position that I'm in, or I'm in the position that you're treating that person like that, it's hard for me to see that. So really, it's our conversation today comes back to the general theme of just being a good person. And every single point that we talked about has found its way back to talking about this.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. I mean, the way I see it, you're in a position today, but you don't know the position you'll be in tomorrow. So you can be really wealthy, and I know you've seen the news, or you've probably seen it. Like, you could be really wealthy today, treat everyone the lowest you can, and then a swing on the stock market tomorrow, you're poor, and then you're relying on those people you treated horribly. That's whenever I see, which bothers me. People will be like, oh, he's a janitor, oh, he's the garbage man. I'm like, I've had some great conversations with those people, and those people are the first that will say hi to me and will ask about me, ask if I'm okay. After I moved from Puerto Rico, I had a relationship with a janitor back in my high school, and he was like, so how's he doing? Is he still all right? I haven't heard of him in forever. So you never know who's really there for you. So you got to treat everyone the best you can, and treat them all the same. Don't treat someone lower just because they're in a different position or a lower position. Now, when it comes to volunteering, you're 100% right. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just time. I mean, is it coming back? Probably not. But you are getting value from it, and it's knowing that in the future, let's say you're raising money for cancer, if you're ever in that position, you'll know, hey, like, I put in labor, and maybe someday in the future I will eat from its fruits. Or let's say you're working for the organization RAIN to prevent sexual assault and raise awareness and get help for uh, people that need it. Let's say you have a daughter, a son, mom, grandma, whoever you care about, or is close to your friend even. um, Someday, hopefully not, but someday they could probably be a victim too. And you got to make sure you're working on the issues today so you're not affected by it in the future. I'm pretty sure you can relate 100% to it. That's why in my fraternity, we're having a lot of discussions on alcohol, on safety, on drug addiction. At least my fraternity, it's everything's good. we don't have those issues within the fraternity. We do believe, which is one of our core values, which is self-control. I mean, you can have a good time. If you're going to have a drink, sure, go ahead. But also know to pace yourself. Know that you need to be responsible. And the reason we started carrying, which I think you call it Narcan, I'm not 100% sure what the name is, but it's just to make sure you're clean or you're not taking opioids and that type of stuff. And the reason we started carrying it is because as we talk with Ryan, we've realized there is an opioid crisis here in PA, and I didn't realize until I saw it with my own two eyes how prevalent it can be. Um, it's it's there, but you got to read between the lines to know like it's actually happening because it's you're not going to realize very easily. I ran into a situation. This person was we found this person and they were completely gone, and we were like we heard this person was using something, and we were like, well, we don't know this person, but we still got to help them out, which is one of our values, courtesy. Like, hey, let's watch out for other people, we were trying to see what was going on. We didn't know. We tried helping the kid, and then we realized, oh, so this is what's going on. Okay, let's get him some help. Thank God, everything got squared away. The kid was fine. We didn't know him, so we haven't heard about him again. But if people don't talk about these topics, don't bring awareness to them, don't have the important conversations, ask the questions, you're not going to find answers or solutions. I think that's what it comes down to. I was holding the anti-sexual assault in conjunction with my fraternity because it's a fraternity effort, truthfully. We were holding the fundraiser, and there were a lot of people just thanking us because it's like a conversation that either they were affected by, they know someone that's affected by it, or they're worried about it because they're like, this is something I have to worry about all the time. Like when I'm walking out at night after I leave a bar, a restaurant, a movie, or just my parents' house, I got to worry about this because, it is a prevalent issue. And I've realized now, I'll touch on it real fast, which is a statistic I found on the RAIN websites. And I didn't know. I didn't know it was this prevalent. I thought it was just like one random person once in a while that does such a thing, which I found like disgusting and horrible. It's that every 68 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted. Every 9 minutes, which breaks my heart. One of them is a child. And then the one that really like was like, wait, what? Like out of every 1,000 perpetrators, only 25 will ever be prosecuted. So that's what RAIN is trying to change. So like, all right, let's see how we can fix things. I didn't realize that until I started researching due to what happened in campus. So I was like, okay, so this isn't going to be a one-time thing. We're going to keep raising money, keep trying to influence the change. And now I've been looking more into the laws of how PA defines consent, how PA decides if we owe DNA or not. If let's say someone, however you want to see it, let's say someone went through the situation, now they're pregnant, they're having a kid. Does that person, the perpetrator, does it have rights over that kid, or does the mom keep the rights? So it's a lot of things I'm learning. I thought it was just okay, the person doesn't have any rights, but it's a bit complicated. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't know, and there should be conversations about it. So that's a lot of what I've learned recently doing all this, really.
Most definitely. And awareness is the first step. It is not the end all be all. Awareness is the first step in getting this done. Just to touch on a law specifically, going back to your conversation about drug use. First of all, yes, if you ever see someone in a position like that, it's so important. Think about if that was you. If you want someone to help you out, as much as we think, it would never be us, we make good decisions. Things happen in life, even if it's not you. Someone that might make a decision, it might not have been the best decision at the time, but it doesn't mean they're not entitled to being looked out for and having people treat them with respect. It could be a good learning experience where they could go on to do great things. So you never know. And one thing that I want to touch on, Jake, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but in 2018, a Penn State student was killed through a lot of drinking and blunt trauma to the head, whole investigation, criminal charges for murder charges. And as a result of that, Governor Tom Wolf did pass a law that gives pretty much a pure immunity if there's a group of people and if there is anyone under the age of 21 that is drinking and someone is in a danger from the health perspective, and they reach out to the ambulance and call 911, we need someone here, they're not responsive, something along those lines. The immunity clause, in my opinion, it really is like the single best piece of legislation that I've ever seen passed. And it is such a vital. I'm not going to sit here and condone underage drinking. I'm not going to encourage it. I'm not going to say anything like that. The thing that you learn in business is that you can't always assume that everyone's going to be perfect and be doing. You learn in business, like, shit just happens. It does. Things just happen, and that's how I look at it. I look at it, I mean, my personal perspective, but I look at it like things are going to happen. I can't stop everyone under the age of 21 from drinking. I can't stop fentanyl being flowed into the United States. I can't stop that. What I can do is I can do whatever I can to educate people to not make those bad decisions, but also understand having for anyone who's watching who doesn't know this, especially if you're going to college or you're going to a party, you have an immunity in the state of PA if someone is unconscious or anything. Do not allow the fear of getting in trouble get in the way of saving somebody's life. And that is something that is so vital and is so crucial. And there are parents out there who have lost kids because there were other kids that were there that were afraid to reach out because of getting in trouble. At the end of the day, it was ultimately much worse. But I do not expect that someone would think of that in that specific scenario because they try to think the best, like, oh, they'll be okay in the morning. But if someone is in serious danger of their health, make the call. Because especially, I mean, the immunity clause itself should not, I mean, the incentive should be to save someone's life. On top of that, the fact that we do have the immunity clause in PA should add on to that. So for anyone who doesn't know that, who's watching this show, if you're younger, you're going into high school or going into college, that's one big takeaway that you should understand. The state of PA does have an immunity clause. And again, I don't say it to endorse or condone any of these activities, but I'm willing to acknowledge things happen. And I want you to know that there are protocols to take to keep people safe and to not have anything tragic happen, because there's no need for that. If we're going to be ignorant and act like kids under 21 aren't going to drink, and you're okay and you accept that ignorance and you're fine with kids dying, I mean, that's a very extreme view, but that is the realistic scenario of life. And that is, I've learned from business, but I tie it back to this, and those are real world scenarios that happen daily and especially happen weekly on many college campuses across the entire country and the entire world.
Yeah, it's a very prevalent issue. Sometimes you'll be walking around Westchester and you'll just, when it comes to alcohol, at least you'll see, hey, like, this person is obviously incapacitated and they're under the age. And let's say, put yourself, sorry about the dog. Let's say you're incapacitated and you're running a risk. What you want your friends to not say anything so you don't get in trouble and you don't get in trouble? Or will you say something because you're health-wise you're in trouble and everyone will be okay? So I do think the legislation is great. I do think the immunity clause has definitely helped a lot. I've seen some changes in campus and stories I've heard of people being really bad after a night of drinking, and then afterwards they were like, yeah, we just called, they were underage, but we called, no one got in trouble. So I am glad the legislation was passed. Now, can we prevent anyone under 21 not to drink? Not really. I mean, there's systems and checks in place, but they're not perfect. As you I mean, you've been, whoever is watching the show and are over 21 or currently our age, getting something is not that hard. You can just ask a friend. You can go to.
It's the reality of these situations. You can't fully make it perfect. The system can't be perfect. So we need to have preventative scenarios in place. And like we said, education and awareness is the most important thing you can do. So just if people didn't know that there was an immunity clause and they watched us and they learned that, a life could be saved because of that. And again, that's the whole goal of this show. And that's really why conversations like this are crucial to have.
Yeah, there's checks in place. I mean, I was doing a sober monitor training recently for with Westchester campus, and they literally have like, which is something we were implementing before we did the training, because we want to make sure we're being responsible, keeping everyone safe. It's which it's basically wristband people that are underage just to make sure, hey, they're not consuming alcohol. Um, that way we know who's okay, who's not okay. How do we deal with the situation? Because we do try to have the checks in place, but things do happen and we don't condone it. We make sure to put an end to it. And because we got to be responsible. There has to be self control. We don't want to get anyone in danger. I'm sure you've heard stories. I'm sure you've seen stuff in campus. So it's all about safety, making sure everyone gets home at the end of the night just safe, or after an event, let's say philanthropy event somewhere, uh, there's an open bar. We got to make sure everyone makes it home safe because they're there for us, supporting what we're doing. But we want to make sure you get home too safe. So that's at least my stance on it.
And that's really, yeah, that's the most practical stance to take. We are nearing the hour here, so we are going to begin to wrap up. But this has been great from, of course, your background talking about business side, but also talking about these real issues. It is great to get an opportunity to discuss these. Anyone watching, I really hope it does give you a really strong takeaway. It's vital, and really, it's been awesome. Jake, thank you so much for being on today. You have been a phenomenal guest on the show. By all means, you are invited to come back whenever you want to. We are booked through October, but we'll make space. Whenever you're ready to come back, we'll get some multiple guest shows on as well, because I know those are always exciting. And this is just the beginning of something great. And overall, again, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I do hope to see where next is going. I'm never sure if I'm saying it right. It's next, right?
Say yeah, next.
Okay, just making sure. I'm excited to see where next is going and see what you'll do next. Thank you for having me, like I said. And I can't wait to see what happens with the Zach Star show. Hopefully, you have a lot of great guests coming up ahead, and we'll see how it grows from here.
Most definitely. And everybody out there who's watching, thank you so much for joining us this week. We have new shows coming up next week, Monday and Wednesday, Friday. Stay tuned for the guest list and schedule that will be released. Thank you, everybody, and have a great